some of these small producers are just absolutely incredible, and like they're doing an amazing job to get the production out of there the way that they do. There's probably too many to mention, really. It just makes me think how lucky we are.
This is The Crackling. I'm Anthony Huckstep. There are many that carve out incredible careers in the hospitality sector, but few have an ability to reimagine food and carve a new path for Australian cuisine. Brent Savage had humble beginnings, but his fascination in cooking methods and a natural creative flair have taken many guests to new, uncharted places on the plate. Brent, how are you?
Good, thanks, Anthony. How are you?
Good. It's been a while since we've caught up, but you've continued to push the envelope and take Australian cuisine down a new path. How's things going at the moment?
Oh, look, it's pretty amazing at the moment, I must say. I'm feeling really positive about what's the last sort of 6 months and going forward. I think there's a lot to look forward to, and I feel like, everyone's coming out on the other side of COVID now, and it's less of a part of a conversation. That said, obviously there's a little bit of COVID going around right now, but hopefully we're prepared to deal with it. So it's things are good. The restaurants are super busy, and sort of loving life at the moment.
The group sort of all started with the famous Bentley in Surrey Hills on the corner there in the former pub, but now you've got 4 incredible restaurants all doing different things. Tell us a little bit about them and why they're so different.
Yeah, look, I think they have their own identity. I think that was something that we really wanted to focus on, and I guess I guess just briefly, obviously Bentley's our fine dining and wants to offer a really refined experience when guests are there, and then Cirrus down on the water it was sort of a no-brainer that we would focus on seafood next to the water in Sydney. So that was a really really obvious thing to do. And Monopole, which we class as our wine bar, but it's part bistro, part wine bar, so it was really a wine-focused restaurant from the get-go, and it continually evolves. And then we also sort of at Yellow, it started out as a little bistro, and then we, around late 2016, we changed over to a plant-based restaurant, being vegetarian, and then we've taken it a step further, and gone 100% vegan. So it really has its own identity as well. So, look, they all focus on different things, I guess, but Bentley is the place where the creativity happens, and that we have those base recipes which then filter out into the other restaurants, which is really is the way that I see things, I guess, is that everything's sort of begun with Bentley and sort of it's sort of the definitely the jewel in the crown, if you like.
The arc of Bentley is quite fascinating. I mean, the energy and excitement around it when it first opened, and it was kind of quite grungy, but the food was incredibly groundbreaking and pushing the envelope. And now Bentley today is such a refined and amazing dining experience. Take us through that arc and the changes that you've implemented within the Bentley sort of brand.
Absolutely. So Bentley, like you said, it didn't start out as a fine diner. It was actually the opposite. It was highly accessible, but really concentrating on what we were delivering as far as the food goes. But we wanted it to be a creative space, and we were willing to, try new techniques, and we wanted to be at the forefront of, being using modern cooking methods and techniques to create something unique for ourselves, but also for Sydney.
Where did that start for you? I know your career started in mountains, but that sort of push into sort of those newer techniques and sort of playing with people's perceptions with food, where did that come from?
Yeah, it was an interesting journey for me because I basically started in a place where we had no modern equipment at all. In fact, it was a baker's oven which we centered the whole restaurant around. That was at Vulcans in Blackheath, and so we didn't even have a thermometer. So we would put our hand in we would put our hand in the fire next to the fire to find out how hot it was. That was quite a normal thing to do is to put our head in the oven, and it was all done by touch and feel. And I guess that was where it sort of made me a really intuitive cook, because I had to use my senses to understand the processes. And I guess coming out of that, after I spent 3 or 4 years there, and then coming out of that, I sort of felt that there was a lot missing out of my repertoire. So I wanted to sort of go and relearn the basics, I guess, and sort of learn French cuisine. So I went and worked for Mark Best at Mark Restaurant, and it was a very fortunate time in my career where he was also. Mark Restaurant was brand new, and he was really founded in those French techniques and doing the classics well. But as that restaurant evolved, so did the techniques that came out. And then obviously there was this famous restaurant, El Bulli, and that had a huge influence on I think it had a huge influence on the whole world, obviously. But for me personally, it was about the techniques that they were using and the precision that they were cooking with. And yeah, it really, really got me curious as to how far you could push, restaurants, food, the whole technique driven side of things. And so really threw myself at it, and managed to travel around and eat in some amazing restaurants throughout Spain, and eventually went and visited El Bulli, which I just found really, really inspiring. Not that you could ever achieve what El Bulli was achieving in a small 50-seat restaurant in Sydney anyway. It was a beast of a restaurant. And yeah, but the inspiration was definitely there, and sort of brought back a few of these techniques and sort of mix them in our repertoire. And that was a lot of fun. We worked quite hard at it, and never wanted it to be naff. We always wanted to have, for these dishes, to have integrity and balance. I think balance is a really important part of cooking, and that was the basis of everything. On the palate, everything sweet, sour, salty, and texture wise was really, really important element into what we did at Bentley, and still is today.
Do you have any stories of sort of the trials and errors of those early days when you were sort of bringing in those techniques and really pushing the envelope?
Look, yeah, there was plenty of horror stories, but none that spring to mind that stick there. But yeah, there was plenty of fuck ups along the way. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, as you were pushing the envelope, were there any pork dishes of that sort of era of Bentley that you remember that you can tell us about?
Yeah, look, one of the things that one of the first dishes that we ever put on the menu at Bentley, was on the opening menu for Bentley, was it was a pork cheek, and we cooked the pork cheek really slowly, poached it in milk, and then we would caramelize it in a pan and serve it with prawn. So pork always it's a really versatile product, and it has the ability to carry other flavors really well, or mask in some cases, or blend. So we used to, obviously, pork belly and scallop is a very famous combination. It goes back China, into Chinese cuisine and whatever. But for us, the pork and prawn with an orange glaze was a really well received dish, and got a lot of acclaim for it as well.
Over the years, you've done all sorts of things with pork. Are there any sort of dishes or cuts that you've sort of honed in on that you can sort of tell us about?
Yeah, look, I love working with I just mentioned pork cheeks, but I absolutely love working with pork cheek. We have done it continuously over the last 20 years, or 17 years, or how and it's been a staple on most of the menus throughout that time, and it just works so well when you slow cook it. So you they are a lot of work to begin with. Obviously, they're covered in fat and whatever, but that meat that's in between the fat is probably some of the best eating. In my opinion, some of the best eating meat that you could ever come across. But look, the other dish that we used to do and had featured a lot on our menus over the years is blood pudding. We would make our own blood pudding. And obviously, it's got a lot of pork fat folded through it, and pig's blood, and it's again, it's one of those ingredient, well, one of those things that you can use to again carry other flavors. So going further back than Bentley, when I was working at Moog, we would do blood pudding with calamari. I remember it had like a tomato glaze and a chili, like a chili oil. It was super delicious. Another dish that was really well received, and yeah, it was nice to get people thinking about blood pudding differently than than a breakfast item, I guess.
I remember many years ago there was a dinner sort of paying homage to pork, and something that stood out that I've never forgotten was a bacon ice cream that you created. Tell us about coming up with that and making that work. What did you do?
Yeah, look, that was a bit crazy, even by our standards. No, but obviously Heston was the first one to do, in my mind, to do bacon ice cream, and it was nothing. So I can't take claim to the original idea, but the dish itself was a lot of fun. We did it with a like a toasted brioche and made it like a breakfast dish. And at that time, those techniques of using we used methyl cellulose to make it. It made a custard and warmed it up with methyl cellulose to make it look like scrambled eggs. So they were passion fruit scrambled eggs on brioche, and then we served the bacon ice cream with it. And it was quite interesting and super delicious, but it was a lot of fun, So
how do you make bacon ice cream?
Yeah, so we infuse the milk with the smoked bacon, and same method, custard based ice cream, but just infusing the milk with the bacon.
You mentioned Monopole being very wine centric, but it was also the grounds for you to explore charcuterie and your own sort of charcuterie. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, look, and pork was the big feature. Obviously, loved making copper from the pork neck. So, I guess the surprising thing when you first start making charcuterie, and you don't realize what a big part the freshness of the pork to begin with is. Everyone thinks because it's a salted product that you grab any old pork and you stick it in there, but there's a lot to be said for how that piece of pork's been treated prior to you getting it, and when we received it, we'd always sort of push for the kill to be within 48 hours of actually receiving. So the fresher the pork, the longer lasting the charcuterie, in my opinion, or the fresher tasting the charcuterie would be, And when I talk about freshness, obviously not I'm talking about freshness on the palate as opposed to freshness, obviously it's a dried product. So it isn't fresh, but at the same time, the actual flavors that you get from the charcuterie, I find is better. To the fresher the product, the better the charcuterie.
What are some of your favourite charcuterie that you've made over the years?
Again, the probably like that lardo style, just straight up pork back fat. I think that, yeah, it's incredible, and also using the cheeks again because they're so full of fat, and that meat is just amazing in the middle. Curing that is awesome, but yeah, like I said, if you can get a really marbled piece of neck and salt that down, and then obviously spice it, rub it, and it's incredible, absolutely incredible. But yeah, look, I really love that journey going through and sort of, exploring. Everyone's sort of now probably more than ever, going through a phase where miso and ferment and all that sort of stuff is really, really high on the agenda, and it's a thing that features on a lot of high end restaurant menus. But some of those old school techniques that have been around forever are just irreplaceable.
You mentioned needing the pig to be killed within 48 hours to get the best product with the charcuterie. Do you have any stories of the connections that you've made with pig farmers over the years?
Yeah, look, I've been very fortunate. We obviously our chain of supply has varied. We often always pretty much use Vix for our pork supply, but the relationships beyond that is really really special. Like the guys down at Redley Farm, they do an amazing job in the Southern Highlands, and also the Toluca Park pork is some of my favourite pork in Australia, I would say. And going back, I guess 15 years when we first discovered Berkshire coming through Kuraburra, the Kuraburra pork heritage breed, it was an amazing piece of produce to come across and start working with. Just that marbling that you don't see in your standard pork production, and I'm not talking about fat content because obviously pork's always fatty, but I'm talking about the actual marbling going through the meat. I had never really seen anything like it. I guess, the only thing that I could really compare it to was the Iberica pork, which is which is the Spanish pork, but yeah, I find Curabita a pretty amazing product still to this day. But there was other people that were on that trajectory prior, and not necessarily for its fat marbling or the style of pork, but even I think about Golden Plains pork, which is coming out of Victoria. I think they call it Western Plains pork now. There's a farm there, and when dating back, going way back to when I was living in Melbourne, some of the pork that we were getting there was just absolutely incredible, and they were keeping it young, so killing it when it was at a I think they were doing about 20 kilo pigs or something, and they were just it was just an insane product. So there's so many amazing producers out there in Australia, and the guys at Borrowdale as well. Like they're doing an amazing job to get the production out of there the way that they do. Yeah. So there's probably too many to mention, really. I was when I was invited to come on, I was thinking, shit, like how many how many pork producers can you mention? But like, yeah, really, really got my. I had to put my thinking cap on for a second, but it just makes me think how lucky we are.
These days, you've got four incredible award-winning establishments, and your role has changed quite a lot. Tell us about your role. How do you work with the different chefs, and how hands-on are you with the four restaurants?
Yeah, look, it's a really interesting position that I've got myself into. I love being part of the process still, and but I also love watching people grow and being part of more of a mentor to the guys than anything else. And at the end of the day, we still have tastings, and if it doesn't fit into our ethos, or the dish doesn't feel right for that particular restaurant, it won't make it onto the menu. But that's not to say that we'd ever stop anyone trying to get dishes on. You know what I mean? So it's all about making sure that we're all thinking about the restaurant in the same way. So that's really what I'm sort of training these guys. Well, it's hard to say training, but these guys are great cooks in their own right. They don't need me to tell them that. But at the same time, the restaurant's still Nick and I's, and we like them to work within the boundaries of the restaurant, I guess. So look, we're blessed with excellent head chefs. Down at Cirrus, we've got Chris Benaday, who's an incredible cook. We've just at Monopole, we've just taken Freddie Volmont, and he's amazing. And we were talking earlier, Anthony, about Xander Nuge, who came from Key Restaurant, and he's running Yellow for us, and he's just like the perfect chef for Yellow. So I'm very, very lucky. And Bentley has always been a combination of myself and for the last 10 years, and with Aidan Stevens, who is a collaborator on that menu, and then we have a head chef there called Nathaniel Merchant, and he's done some amazing things for himself, and continues to work, do incredible things for us.
You mentioned some pork dishes early on in your career. How does it feature now at somewhere like Bentley?
Yeah, so it's interesting because one of my favourite cuts is a pork neck, and we're probably marinating. So at the moment we're marinating pork neck in like a chickpea miso and letting that marinate overnight, and then we slow smoke it and slow cook it, and then we grill it over some charcoal, and so I serve it with some fermented cabbage and like a green chili juice, which is it's a really interesting and delicate dish. Believe it or not, it sounded very, very powerful flavors there and stuff, but it's actually becomes a really, really delicate but high in umami sort of dish. And over at Monopole currently we're serving a pork chop, which is kind of old, quite old school, but then we also have we serve it with some salted apple, and it's actually a really light dish, so a salted apple, chives, and a bit of lemon, and a little cider sauce, which is really cool. And so I mean at Cirrus, we often, even though we're a seafood-based restaurant there, we still serve. It could be pork belly, or we might do a loin of pork there, or something like that. So we're always featuring somewhere in those three restaurants. Obviously, it doesn't go so down so well at Yellow. It's less well received.
I know that different cuts require different cooking techniques, but what's sort of important to you when cooking pork? What's the sort of important steps to get it right?
Yeah, look, I think pork generally has a slow feel to it. So if you can cook it slowly, I feel like you get the best outcomes, because you want to be able to give it time to break down all that fat. Take your time. I guess the loin is one of those cuts where you have to be careful, because if you go too slow on it, it will dry out. But other than the loin, all those other bits are all conducive to cooking long and slow, I think, is the way to go. And one of my favorite things to do with pork, is an old Italian technique, and that's to cook it in milk. milk, garlic, bay leaf, peppercorns, and slowly braise it. So whether you're doing it on the stove top or you're doing it in the oven, you just salt the pork first, rinse it, drop it into a pot or into a pan that you're going to put into the oven. Cover it with milk. Let it slowly. Put lots of bay leaf, lots of peppercorn, lots of thyme, and let that cook, and it just comes out incredible. Whether that be the belly or the neck or the cheek or whatever you want to do with it, like I think that is a great easy way to prepare it.
The last couple of years have been pretty challenging, but as you said at the top of the show, things are looking really positive as we push forward. What should we expect for the next sort of couple of years from you guys?
Yeah, look, it's too early to tell, but we are looking probably to grow a little bit still. We still feel like we've got more to give, and like we were talking about earlier, it's a real privilege to be able to nurture talent in our industry and be part of the next generation coming through and doing who are going to go out there and do really special things. So we really enjoy the process of helping others as well, and and part of that is it's not all about others. We obviously grow during that process, So we feel like it's a bit of a collaboration to give opportunity and also go out there and do something new and do something different for us and for everybody that's supporting us.
You're incredibly humble for a chef that made such an impact and will continue for many years make an impact on the culinary landscape. What do you love about what you do?
Look, that's a good question, but one that puts me on the spot a little bit. But yeah, look, I think I love. I've loved being part of our industry. I think it's been. I think we are, privileged to get to do something that you love every day. I know a lot of people go out there and have to work in an environment that they're not so happy in, whereas our environment's ever changing and always full of opportunity and opportunity to travel, opportunity to grow personally, and so I feel like they're the things that I've taken away a lot. And the people that we meet, I feel like feel inspired by everybody that either works for us or the producers that are out there doing amazing things so that we can do amazing things, so there's so many highs to it all. And but probably working with producers is a big one for me. I really like getting out there and seeing what people are, the effort and how hard people are working at that. That's humbling. That's humbling in itself.
Well, Brent, it's an absolute honour to have you on the Crackling today to hear just a little bit of your story. Good luck with the next couple of years, and please keep in touch and we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Anthony. That's amazing. Thanks so much.
This is The Crackling, a Deep in the Weeds production in partnership with PorkStar. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we catch up with some of Australia's best chefs and pork producers to discover what makes Australian pork so special.